Sorry, we've got a technical hitch. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this council meeting. And also welcome to all our guests and residents. It's lovely to see so many people here. So welcome. So item 1 is anyone is welcome to record this meeting, providing they do not disturb the conduct of the meeting. More information is available in the agenda. Please note that the council will be making an audio recording of this meeting for publication on the council's website. After sunset, the Westgate Garden gates are locked, so members of the public should leave the Guildhall by the side exit door behind the glass door. Should the fire alarm sound, please leave through the nearest safe exit. The assembly point will be outside Café des Amis. Thank you. Pippa, apologies for absence.
Apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Carnac, Councillor Hazelton, Councillor Andrew Harvey and Councillor Worley.
Thank you. Now can I invite Councillor Baldock for any declaration of councillors' interests?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Declaration of interest is made by the Labour group of members. Sorry, I'll start that again, shall we? Any declaration of interest made by members of the Labour group are declared again by those present and at this meeting.
Can I ask now Councillor Dixie?
And the same for the Lib Dem group, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Howes
Yeah, the same for Conservatives, Lord Mayor.
and Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you. Same for the Green Group, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. And is there any other councillors wish to make any declarations at this point? I've got Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We just need to declare in relation to the motion that I have an allotment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mike.
I'm declaring the same interest as having an allotment.
Thank you, Councillor Bland. Councillor Nolan.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I have an allotment too.
Thank you. That's good to hear that we've all got allotments, grown our own food. Anybody else? No. Thank you for that. We've received no petitions or questions from the public. And now I've got a couple of announcements to make. It is with sadness that Harry Cragg, a long-standing councillor and a previous Lord Mayor, passed away in August. Harry loved Canterbury and was committed to serve all the residents, not just in his ward, St Stephen's, but all across the district. Our thoughts go to his wife, Sheila, and to all his family. May we also reflect on the terrible scenes we have witnessed in Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank. Our thoughts must be for peace in the Holy Land and for the innocent civilians on all sides who have been affected by this conflict. Can I ask those that can stand for a minute's silence to reflect on Harry's memory and peace to all? Thank you very much. Now can I ask if we've got any announcements by the Cabinet members? Councillor Baldock?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just two things really. The LGUI, which we all know as councillors, has nominated and Connie Nolan for the Resilience Champion in their awards this year. And it's for Connie's work, which we all know about and we all much respect, working with the Ukrainian community. Shall I say, making it their home from their home. And in these times of trouble that Lord Mayor referenced to, what could be closer to our hearts than people that are displaced from their homes? And need somebody like Connie, who's dedicated so many hours and hours. But I'm sure Connie will allow me to say also that it's the team that Canterbury City Council has behind the scenes that have been truly amazing and worked with Connie. And I think that award is shared with all of them, from all of us. And I thanks that way as well. So I really appreciate that. And sticking to the Ukrainian theme as well, I know the Lord Mayor too would sort of say it, but she's actually been asked by Canterbury for Ukraine to be a patron of their charity. And I know you're incredibly honoured to do that, aren't you, for us as a council as well. So thank you for those. Just two announcements. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dixie. Councillor Dixie?
Just a couple of quick announcements. First of all, the official opening of the council's Riverside development by the Lord Mayor just a few weeks ago was a great success. And most of the businesses have reported that their sales are exceeding expectations. So our thanks to all those involved in bringing this project to fruition. And it's been a long haul. And the second one is the planning enforcement team is making progress with tackling some of the dreadful shop fronts in the high street. It's not going to happen overnight, but we are making progress. And then when they've completed that, they'll go into other areas of the city. So I think people would like to know that.
Thank you, Councillor Dixie. Have we got any more? Councillor Saul?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Last week, Councillor Charlotte Cornell and I met with German Deputy Ambassador Bonn, who was visiting Canterbury. He's very keen to forge closer relationships between our district and Germany, especially after Brexit has, and later next year will continue to put greater administrative and time-consuming processes on those bringing coach parties here from Europe. But such a relationship could be a real boost for tourism and education sectors here. Of course, one key aspect to our tourism offering is the delivery of the Levelling Up project. And Lord Mayor, you may have already noticed the first real visual signs of this with the scaffolding around Canterbury Castle as a stone-by-stone survey begins before conservation work later next year. Soon, once again, the public will be able to have safe access to this significant piece of Canterbury's history. Earlier this week, as part of the Local Government Association funded Next Generation programme, I visited Lib Dem run Bath and North East Somerset Council. It was particularly interesting to see how they have increased their finances through tourism, but also to visit their very modern council offices that, like ours, are above shops, like ours will be in Whitefriars, are above shops and embrace the benefits of home working and the collaborative workspaces. I was told that this working environment had really made it a lot easier to recruit staff. And I hope this is something we can also build on as we continue to drive down our staff vacancy rates from around 20% a year ago to 17% in March. And as members of the Scrutiny Subcommittee were told today, are now down to 14%. So credit to everyone involved with that. Finally, work continues on our draft budget that I look forward to sharing with councillors and residents in a few weeks' time. And I hope it generates an active consultation as we work to deliver on the Coalition's manifesto in these challenging financial times.
Thank you, Councillor Saul. And have we got any announcements from yourself? No. Right. So we're now on item 5, and it's the biodiversity emergency. I'd like to just advise you that this item is also listed under agenda item 9 on the agenda, but will be discussed now. So can I invite the leader, Councillor Annan Baldock?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The proposal is that this council declares its recognition of the global biodiversity emergency and the local impact this could have on the communities and businesses we serve. That's our proposal. We have the motion before us, and we can obviously debate in a moment after it's been seconded by Councillor Dixie. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we'll open it for debate. Councillor Dawkins.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wanting to say really about how pleased I am to be here tonight to make this declaration. Well, how pleased I am that we are all here tonight to make this declaration. It's been an amazing journey, and I've been so proud to be part of it, from talking with specialist groups from tonight and individuals about it, and then the petition and then the motion, and now we're here tonight ready to vote. Woohoo! I was grateful for maybe I didn't say that in the right way. I was trying to build up to a applause drum roll. So just a sort of little bit about how we got here. I think I've only got a few minutes. Right. The council then needed to consider the implications of the motion to declare a biodiversity motion, and the report that was given to Cabinet was very, very thorough, I thought, and it showed all the amazing work the environment officers and the team are doing already to support our nature, and it brought together all those strands into one place. So, such as the river strategy that we saw when we saw the amazing River Stour event happen, which will be continue to happen every year, which is amazing, and then the pollinator plan, which is going to be coming out very soon. So lots of other things. The report also offered a long list of short-term and long-term actions that can be taken to sort of make sure this declaration is, you know, it's all very well saying we're having an emergency, but we've got to do something. So, so these are the actions, and there was a long list in there, and to be considered to implement the declaration into our work as a council. The newly formed Canterbury District's Open Space and Biodiversity Group, which has met once already, will be tasked to come up with a nature recovery plan by sort of spring next year, which will take into account some of these actions, and there might be some new ones that we might want to put in there. Also, that will align with other committees in the council. It's not just going to be a one-person thing. It's like lots of us will be involved in that. And I also look forward to the development of the corporate plan that's in process at the moment, that we've all been involved in inputting to, and I hope that climate change and biodiversity will be centre of that. The declaration tonight gives more weight to the issue that our district, country and even our planet faces, and sends a clear, consistent message that we, the council, are setting a precedent backed up by our strategies and policies. We've read all the bad news in the State of Nature report. The latest one came out this year, demonstrating the decline across our species, both on land and sea. And as we know, this is integrally linked with the impacts of climate change and human activity. Biodiversity is fundamentally the survival of the planet and us. However, because of a better understanding of nature, we can fix it. So that's a positive news. By changing farming practices, reducing pollution, protecting habitats and ecosystems, and by a coordinated approach. We also know that nature is good for our physical well-being and our mental well-being. We saw that in COVID especially, didn't we? And 82, there's a statistic going around that says 82% of people say nature makes them happy. So not only is this declaration tonight that I hope we all vote for together is good for our diversity in our district and beyond, it's good for us too. So as I said before, we've got lots of work to do. We can't just sit here and declare it. We've got lots to get on with as well. So, but I'll be voting this through tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Dawkins. Have we got any other speakers? Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm also delighted that we're here making this declaration and that the request that Cabinet pays attention to this has been thoroughly enacted. There's an action plan to support the declaration, which is the result, of course, originally of the e-petition that was supported by so many members of the public, and work by the head of the Environment team and obviously Mel, our Cabinet member for climate change. The motion builds on the Climate Emergency Declaration adopted in 2019 and affirms our dedication to biodiversity conservation, habitat protection and ecological restoration. As we know, the 2019 State of Nature report found that 13% of England's species are under threat of extinction, with 35% having declined in number since 1970. Kent supports over 3,400 rare and threatened species, such as the shrill carder bee, the heath fritillary and the dwarf or Kentish millwort. Of course, we are already doing quite a lot to support some of those species. And, you know, we do have in Canterbury the wildlife and the habitats and the ecosystems are vitally important to us, and they are very special. But of course we can enhance them. And this is very timely because we now actually know the kind of actions that we need to take. And behind this, we've obviously got the pollinator plan, the biodiversity action plan, and many other activities. This will enhance our lives, from the insects that pollinate our food crops to our residents' health and well-being. So just really, I wanted to say, you know, there is a comprehensive action plan. It went to Cabinet. We are here to vote on the final result today. The Open Spaces and Biodiversity Working Group will take the action plan forward, and I would just like to add a couple of points to that plan. Given the large-scale developments coming forward and the problems we have with Legacy Park, which is one of the large sites in my ward in Barton, where the open space has not been built to satisfactory standards, is not being set up in the right way, and we have lots and lots of problems just trying to get that space organised and running as it should for the public. It's meant to be, and it is, a public open space, but it needs to be a lot better. So it's imperative we learn from this experience and make sure we hold developers to account for delivery of open space, biodiversity and biodiversity net gain elements of the agreements. So please could we add to the action plan that the Council will make maximum use of the opportunity to enhance biodiversity and improve habitat connectivity in planning decisions. The Council will carefully monitor the implementation of planning permission conditions relating to landscape and biodiversity and will enforce them strictly. I mean, clearly, my role is all around planning. We have a big vested interest in achieving all of this, but I think we probably need to have this on the agenda for the Open Space and Biodiversity Group, for the subgroup with planning and for the working group. So these 2 points are just supplementary to the intentions and add to what we've already got.
Thank you,
Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Turnbull. And
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say I'm really pleased that this is coming forward tonight. I'll certainly be supporting it. I'm looking forward to working with Councillor Dawkins and the rest of the group, the Open Spaces and Biodiversity Group, to keep monitoring this, make sure it goes through. It's coming at a great time because as we're rewriting the corporate plan and the local plan, and it's a great time to make sure this underpins what we're doing. It isn't an add-on, it actually is an underpinning and driving what we're doing. So thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Turnbull. Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I just wanted to speak on behalf of...
Stand up, I'm afraid.
My apologies. Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. I wanted to speak on behalf of some of my residents in Story Ward, particularly in Fordwich. So recently, myself and Councillor Moses, we had a councillor surgery in Fordwich where we spoke to residents and town councillors. And if you haven't been to Fordwich and you haven't witnessed the nature and the biodiversity on display there, you truly must. It is a very beautiful place, and they are very worried about protecting their natural environment in their town, the smallest town in the UK. And they were asking me and Councillor Moses questions about the nature recovery plan, about how we was going to protect nature, about how we was going to protect the biodiversity in their village. And with this declaration and with the brilliant contribution by our Cabinet Member for Climate Change and Biodiversity just now, I am confident that we can look our residents in the eyes and tell them that we are going to protect their nature and their biodiversity. I feel that this is a real turning point for our district and that we can look forward to a cleaner, greener, more nature-friendly Canterbury in the future. That's why I'm supporting this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mackenzie. Councillor Charlotte Cornell.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. This was a fantastic piece of work by the Open Spaces team, and also I do want to pay tribute to my colleague Mel Dawkins, who really led that fantastically and has delivered something that's really special for the city. I'm very worried about the 18% of people who aren't made happy by nature. And, I think there's enough of us in this room that we can have some strong words when we find out who that 18% are. But also to the huge amount of the public who've turned out today to support this motion. It is a great honour for us to hopefully pass this today and be a forward-looking, progressive, biodiversity supporting council. But we are all very aware that you are all still going to be there, and making sure that we keep up with our piece of work and keep up with the challenge that we've set ourselves. And when you have a petition come to fruition, it places extra responsibility on our shoulders as councillors. And I'm pleased you're all here, and please stay in contact with us, and members of the Biodiversity and Open Spaces team will always be happy to hear from you with ideas that challenge, take this forward and continue to hold us to account. And where you think we're not failing to deliver, tell us. And we are always listening. So again, that's a thank you to the public, and we are aware of the responsibility we hold.
Councillor Franklin.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Really, just to echo the words that have been said by Councillor Cornell as well as Councillor Mackenzie. The fact is, I think everyone here is most likely going to vote for this motion, and I think what it shows is a victory for local democracy. The fact is that actually shows if you get involved, engage with the council via petition, you can actually make a difference. And I'm hoping that this petition shows that in not only in the climate emergency, but also issues like the cost of living, like rubbish collection, those sort of issues that really affect our local residents. And I'm really pleased that this motion is being put forward. In Wincheap ward, we have the Great Stour that runs right through it, and it's an important part of our nature. As I've had a conversation with Sean many months ago now, really illustrates the need for the Great Stour to continue to play its vital role in our community and our nature. And I hope that all councillors do support this motion, because it's a great motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Franklin. Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and completing, I guess, the cross-party support for this excellent policy. I just wanted to reflect a little bit. I mean, 4 years ago, we passed the climate change emergency, and that would become our climate change action plan. And that led to many very concrete steps to protect our environment. But that is not enough of its own to protect nature, although it's very helpful. And a couple of years ago, we had the Biodiversity Working Group led by Councillor Ashley Clark, which really formed the blueprint for a lot of these ideas now coming forward into action. I'm sure Ashley would be here tonight voting in support of this if he hadn't been so rudely interrupted by democracy in May. But it was ever thus. Obviously, it's been crystallised by the excellent community petition and then, formed into action by the council and the cabinet. So, thank you for everyone. It's been a long journey. As as much as we work hard to get this far, we'll have to work twice as hard to implement it. But I'm sure we're all committed to that, and I hope everyone supports it tonight.
Thank you very much. Have we got anybody else? Councillor, I should know him. Smith. Dan Smith. Sorry, Dan Smith. I should have remembered.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Take a random guess. You're going to come up with a Smith. Just firstly to say that I'm absolutely going to support this. I think it's a wonderful proposal, and I shall absolutely support it. What I would say is that the council has an ability to magnify positive actions by any of the community out there. We have a media structure. We have ways of doing that, and I think that absolutely that should be done. And little things can make an enormous difference. I mean, I was taking a walk the other day, and I walked past 5 houses. 4 of them had paved their front gardens and had no hedges and just walls and car parking spaces. 1 had a hedge, and there was a small flock of birds coming out of that hedge as I walked past. And I think those kind of little things to encourage people to change their structure, change their habits, is something that I think is completely noteworthy, and to actually publicise it when we do that, because I think you need to create a peer group pressure. And I think there are many in the audience who've worked very hard down the years doing their own thing, which shows the private actions, the actions of ordinary people in the community make a huge difference. And I think this moving forwards offers us an opportunity to bring the whole community together and publicise it when we do positive actions to create this massive peer group pressure to actually enhance every single aspect of biodiversity increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dan Smith. Councillor Baldock, would you like to sum up? Got a phone ringing.
Yeah. Lord Mayor, how can I sum up when so many good words have been said? Just simply, we know it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing in our heart. We're going to vote for it. I hope you all vote for it. Unanimous across the council. Send that signal out there. We mean business. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Baldock. Can I ask Pippa to take a recorded vote? And can we all vote? No problem. We'll wait for Pippa. Has everybody casted their vote, Pippa? Well, that's unanimous. So thank you very much for everybody attending tonight. You're very welcome to stay if you wish, but if not, we can adjourn for a minute for you to leave. But thank you so much for coming. Thank you, everybody. Can we resume the meeting? And it's nice to see some of you wanting to stay. We've got no yeah, there's no recommendations from other committees or boards. So we're on to item 7, which is the councillors' questions. There are 8 questions for the meeting, and there's an overall time limit of 30 minutes for all councillors' questions. Each questioner will have 1 minute to put their question, and 3 minutes is allowed for the response. Each questioner will also be allowed to ask 1 supplementary question, which the respondent to the original question may answer. No other contribution is allowed. For any questions that haven't been dealt with in the 30 minutes, a written response will be shared with all councillors. But I think that with 8, we should get through them all. So hopefully we will. So the first question is from Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. This council needs to do much more to encourage recycling by giving visitors to our city and town centres the opportunity to dispose of their recyclable waste into separate bins. Ashford Borough Council has recently announced a scheme called In the Loop, putting recycling bins in the town centre in order to improve recycling when people are out and about in the town. This initiative is a partnership between the Council, Kent Resource Partnerships, KCC and others, including recycling processors, and is also supported by McDonald's. They've backed this up with other initiatives, including a litter lotto and recycling workshops. This sounds like an initiative which would fit very well in Canterbury City Centre and our town centres. What are current schemes for the city centre doing to address recycling opportunities? And is the Cabinet Member for Waste and Recycling willing to investigate creating such a scheme in this district? Thank you.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Charlotte Cornell?
Thank you very much for the question. Obviously, it's been something that the level of on-street recycling is something we entered the job very concerned about and are adamant we are going to, in this administration, do a lot better on. We are already working with Canaco to look at on-street recycling options, which could be trialled in Canterbury and not just limited to the city, but also actually we're looking broader than your question suggests, and we're looking to the coast as well. This follows the recommendations of the cross-party working group from the last administration, and we're building on that and are grateful for that. Regarding those on-street schemes, there are always concerns from KCC about the contamination in those bins, and we are working with the Kent Resource Partnership and Kent County Council to see how any schemes we implement can minimise that contamination and so maximise the success of what's placed in the bin and thus recycled. We'll be watching the Ashford project very carefully, and also I am in contact with KRP, the Kent Resource Partnership. We'll be monitoring that and its success rates and how they do with reducing the contamination. So yeah, it's on our radar. Very grateful for raising it. It seems like it's a very worthy scheme and we wish them the best of luck. It's always nice to be a trailblazer which improves something for the wider East Kent area. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cornell. Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Turnbull?
Yeah, I do. It's kind of supplementary. It was just, what about employers? I know that noticed that they've got employers, particularly McDonald's. So how about the people who are sort of generating the litter? How about they put some money into the schemes? Is that something that you're looking at as well?
To be honest, we're looking at Ashford and seeing how they do, and we'll take best practice from their practice. So no, we're not in discussions with McDonald's or any of the, we have enforcement issues ongoing with some of our retailers. And obviously we're very aware of the changes in national legislation regarding packaging and recycling and what can and can't be distributed on a takeaway basis. And we're monitoring how that's employed and enforced within our city. But regarding contribution, those aren't discussions we've had yet. I'm happy to pick it up and look at how we might have those discussions in future, and I'll loop you in and keep you abreast when we do.
Thank you very much. The next question is Councillor Joe House.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just a relatively easy question, I hope. Yeah, could the leader please provide an update on the sale of the old council office site at Military Road, please?
Councillor Baldock.
Thank you. Yeah, everything's progressing as it should. Lots of work's taking place in the background. Obviously, you will be aware of that as we started in the previous administration, and it's obviously it's difficult to get details out to in a public forum. It's delicate commercial negotiations are going on at this moment in time, and you won't be surprised at that, of course. Following an assessment and consideration of the best and final bids in accordance with the Section 123 of the Local Government Act 1972, the preferred bidder was selected and notified in October. In the intervening period between then and now, the preferred bidder has been undertaking technical due diligence of the site, while both parties have been progressing in the terms of sale of the site. Draft contracts continue to travel between the two parties. Legal representatives and as such have given the contracts are yet to be exchanged. It's not possible to disclose any further information. You wouldn't expect me to on that, of course, would you? And obviously you know that that's been progressing since the last administration in October as well. So suffice to say that negotiations and drafting in the legal documents is continuing, with the hope that the contracts will be exchanged in the very near future. So there's nothing else that we can tell you now, but we're close. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have you a supplementary?
No supplementary. Thank you. Thanks for the update, Alan.
Thank you. Can I now invite Councillor Liz Harvey to put her question?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Subscribing residents suffered a huge amount of disruption to their green bin services during the recent 10-week bin strike, for, of course, absolutely no fault of their own. I understand that the council is only offering 1 month for free services to compensate for this disruption. Many residents have contacted me and my fellow councillors to complain about the unfairness of this offer. Please can we offer 2 months free service to green bin subscribers to match the interruption to the service that residents experienced? Thank you.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Charlotte Cornell to respond?
Thank you very much. Obviously, we remain very sorry for all the disruption that residents experienced during the period of industrial action. Regarding the green bins, 46% of the green bins were collected during the same period of industrial action, and the average resident missed 2 collections. I appreciate that's an average resident, and we have some that missed more and almost none that missed fewer. I can say that no, because it's every... yeah. So all I can say is we are very sorry. We did crunch the figures. Offering 2 months worth of free collections would cost an extra £120,000, which we do not, as a council, have. The terms and conditions of the green bin registration mean we don't have to offer any refund or goodwill. We've chosen to, and that stretched us to a point where we were able to, it was part of our budgeting around making the offer. So that's where we landed, and we aren't in a position to extend that further, for which I can only apologise to residents and thank them for their understanding again.
Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Harvey?
No supplementary, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I invite Councillor Naomi Smith to put her question forward?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm a keen sea swimmer, and I was at the SOS protest in Whitstable in September. that was highlighting the impact of sewage being pumped into our seas with great speakers, including Fergal Sharkey, who was my teenage crush. I've spoken with many fellow swimmers concerned about the high levels of E. coli recorded by the citizen science projects that have been running. But I also noted that there's a discrepancy between what the citizen science project has been recording and the Environment Agency. Can the council explain what procedures there are in place to report the high levels of E. coli and the relevant agencies, and what Canterbury City Council have been doing to corroborate and ensure the accuracy of the public citizen science data? The testing of waters isn't and shouldn't be a political issue. Residents should be confident that the council are doing all they can to ensure people are well informed of the reliability of the data and the risks to being in the sea. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Chris Cornell to respond?
Thanks for the question, Naomi. Southern Water have loaned us a water testing device to carry out water quality monitoring. It's a Fluidian device, which is the same used by the Environment Agency for their collections. To date, 3 of our staff and 8 volunteers from SOS Whitstable have been trained in the use of the device, and they carry out tests at 8 different locations across Herne Bay and Whitstable. The initial project is going to run until March 2024, and all that information is shared with information from partners, including the Environment Agency. In the event that we get high reading, which is a poor classification in relation to the bathing water scales, it's immediately reported to the Environment Agency and Southern Water, and within 24 hours, a discussion is held within all parties to try to understand the likely root cause and decide. The Environment Agency can decide if any further investigation is needed. Following the number of higher than expected recordings that we have had over the summer, we've started benchmarking the sampling using an accredited laboratory. So essentially, when we take a result, we'll also take a small section of that and send it to a lab up in London in order to corroborate the information. It'll tell us if there's a problem with the machine that we have or there's a wider problem in terms of the sample. We're working closely with the manufacturer of the device to ensure that quality controls are being implemented and further training has been completed with volunteers on that. The information which is on the Save Our Seas site in Whitstable is going to also start publishing the laboratory samples and the information that we collect so that members of the public can see the independent corroboration we're doing of that information. And there'll be a joint statement on their website which explains why we're doing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Naomi Smith, do you have a supplementary?
No, no supplementary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I now ask Councillor Dan Watkins to put his question?
Thanks, Lord Mayor. As has been noted, residents have recently endured a 10-week bin strike, during which the red and blue recycling bins for paper, glass and plastic were not collected. Kent County Council provided additional resources to handle the extra waste at the tips, and our thanks go to them for that support, which allowed a small proportion of the intended recycling to be recycled. But for curbside collection, the failure of Canterbury City Council to swiftly end the industrial action has been an environmental disaster in the short term, with no recycling at all. Regretfully, this will also continue to harm the district's recycling rates in the future, as some residents who previously recycled and then were not able to recycle do not quickly readopt the recycling behaviour. Please confirm what the 2023 recycling target for our district is, what our year-to-date performance is, and how that compares with last year at the same time in the cycle, and what the financial hit to both Canterbury City Council and Kent County Council will be if the industrial action ultimately results in us missing this target. Thank you.
Can I invite Councillor Cornell, Charlotte Cornell, to answer?
There's about 4 questions here. I'll break them down. I always knew I was going to get quite a lot of rubbish questions about rubbish, so this was anticipated. Once again, I reiterate our apologies for the disruption caused, and I don't think it was a case of endurance. I do think for our residents it was a case of tolerance. I think they did appreciate that we wanted to get the best outcome for the workers and the best value for our taxpayer, and that we wanted to make sure that we were both a council who took our responsibilities as employer or quasi-employer in this case seriously, but also financial responsibilities seriously, coming into a new administration where it is and will be difficult to balance the books, bearing in mind the cuts from central government to local authorities. So back to what you were actually asking. We're very grateful to the help that Kent County Council offered us during the time. The recycling rate for the council is currently 44.96%, as agreed with KCC. The target set by the government is 65% by 2035. We're very aware of that target. We're aware that we have to put in strident measures continually and review those measures in order to meet that target. This includes garden waste, and don't forget that the majority of garden waste was collected during this period. Can&Co ensured that in the 2 weeks following the culmination of the strike, there were extra resources out on the street. We were budgeting for those extra resources to be there and aware that they needed to be there as part of the settlement that we eventually agreed with both the recognised union and the GMB. It was really important to us that we had those extra resources in the fortnight following the strike so that we could collect the curbside recycling that many, indeed the majority of our residents, had stored. The initial data, and we don't have the final data from KCC because, as you'll know, it takes a few months for that final data to be verified. But the initial data that I can share with you is that over and above a 2-week comparable period in June, the following tonnage over and above the average for the same point last year was collected. Recycling, we collected at over and above 579 tonnes extra, refuse 114 tonnes extra, and green waste we collected 66 tonnes extra. We are convinced that our residents haven't forgotten how to recycle in a very short space of time. Indeed, I think all our residents are exceptionally bright people. We're a very clever constituency, the constituency of education and flair, and also of eco-awareness, as we just proved by passing that motion. And I'm convinced our residents haven't forgotten in the short period how to recycle. But just in case, Dan, we're getting out a really exciting recycling leaflet to every single household in the district. And I've just seen the copy of this leaflet and it's absolutely fantastic. It's a really comprehensive update on what goes where, an update to where you can recycle things if it's not through us, an update on how much tonnage is sent to landfill, almost nothing, 1%, as you know, only
Can you wind up,
and marine
Charlotte?
mammals. Thank you, getting excited about it. And that will be hitting doors in November, December. We also have a discounted price on red bins of £10, and I look forward to the supplementary.
Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Watkins?
How did you guess, Lord Mayor?
Yeah.
I would point out that in the end, after 10 weeks of strike action, you ended up giving the bin workers exactly what they asked for in the first place, thus meaning that we didn't save any money for the taxpayer, but we did have this huge hit to recycling behaviour and huge inconvenience and disruption. So I wouldn't see that as a fantastic tale of fiscal prudence. However, my question relates firmly to my original question. I think you missed 2 bits, which was if we're achieving 45% at the moment recycling rate, yeah, it's a few months out of date, but let's just take that. How does that compare with last year? Right, we're chasing 65%, but I mean, I'd be interested to know how much worse are we this year compared with last year? And then my final question, which you only half answered, was in relation to financial penalties if we miss the target. Can you just confirm, is there a penalty if we miss this year's target and what that is? So do we have a target specifically for this year rather than, I think you said 2030? Thank you.
I don't know whether Charlotte would know, but the leader has indicated.
Yeah, I'll just really
will
be
answer.
a little bit. We had 4 questions in the first question, and we've got 4 questions in the second question, of which of which most of them are not relevant to the first question because it's already been answered. So either we have one straight question, we stick to the rules of the game, we don't have 4 questions. The Lord Mayor reminded me earlier we had 8 questions. So far we've got 12.
Well, Mayor, if I may say, the second and fourth question, my 2 questions just then were the second and fourth question from my original question, which weren't answered. They were not a 5th and 6th question.
We're going to move on now. Thank you. We'll move on. We'll move on. Thank you very much.
I'm happy for the Charlotte Cornell, Councillor Charlotte. If she wishes to answer any of it, I'm happy, but it's a point of order.
Yeah.
Just to put on the record, I will try and get the recycling rates that you ask for in a written answer. I will clarify that as if I can, but also just to put on the record, because I think it's important, that when we were negotiating with the unions, they didn't get exactly what they first asked for. I think that's really important. It was a period of negotiation where the start date of the pay uplift was negotiated, where terms and conditions were all on the table. Things did change, and in those changes, so we could afford what we ultimately were able to offer. What we ultimately were able to offer, we couldn't have settled on in the first weeks of the strike. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cornell. Can I ask Councillor Jones to ask his question?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And to let you know, this is only one question. Okay. All right. Okay. That's all right. I'm not saying it's a very nice one, but it's that's okay. That's no problem. As ULEZ has been imposed on residents right up to the Kent border, can the leader please reassure the hard-working residents of our Canterbury district that there will be no ULEZ imposed in our district in any shape or form?
Thank you. It will be Councillor Ricketts who will be answering this as Cabinet Member for Tourism, Movement and Rural Development.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Jones, for the question and for giving the Cornell household a break. I will answer your one question with 2 answers, if that's okay, if it's not too far out. As far as I'm aware, it would be something in the power of Kent County Council, and we're not aware of any plans of Kent County Council to introduce ULEZ, and we're certainly not lobbying them to do so. And as part of the draft strategy currently in preparation, there are no plans that I'm aware of to introduce ULEZ. And in fact, as far as I'm aware, there is no plans to introduce zones of any kind, luckily.
Thank you, Councillor Ricketts. We've now got... Sorry, does Councillor Jones want to ask something? Yes, does he want... Sorry.
All I wanted to say, it's not supplementary questions. Thank you very much, and I totally agree on all of that. Music to my ears and residents, and obviously the reason why I brought it forward regarding ULEZ and pollution, everyone wants clean air, but I don't. I know we're not doing it. But the point I wanted to make actually, because people think you want pollution, and it's not about that. I think if you have ULEZ, basically all you're doing is really affecting people who are the least affordable to actually use a vehicle, and more important, that paying to pollute is not an answer.
Is that a question?
No.
Is that a question? Thank you. Thank you very much. And then can I invite Councillor Thomas to put his question?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. After a meeting with the residents of Cecil Park, please can I have an update on the future plans of the hockey club in Herne Bay? Thank you.
Can I invite Councillor Chris Cornell?
Thank you for your question, David. I believe there's 2. You've answered me question 8, but don't worry, I'm doing both of them, so it really doesn't matter. Yeah, no, don't worry. As you'll know, the site at Cecil Park was identified for disposal back in February 2021. historically made by the Old Policy Committee. In the intervening period, councillors of multiple colours have made inquiries about the progress for disposal. Following the recent recruitment and additional resources in the regen team, we're now in a place where we can see it progressed again, starting with a review of the ownership of the site. And I know that this currently remains unclear, and a number of residents have suggested that a covenant exists on the land for its community use. Currently, we don't have any fixed plans for the site. Options for the disposal of the land will be looked at once we can review the title deed and are clear whether a covenant for the site exists or not. Depending on that outcome, options will be looked at accordingly, and we'll obviously engage local councillors in future proposals.
Thank you, Councillor Cornell. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Thomas?
No, thank you, Lord Mayor.
You have another question, or?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It seems the system's giving me the end of the questions, I'm afraid. Please can I have an update on when the demolition of the old Tivoli site in Beach Street will be beginning? Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you again. For other councillors who aren't aware, the Tivoli site was brought by the council in 2018 for £1.1 million with the aim of developing the area themselves. And in 2019, we agreed a planning permission for a mixed-use scheme and 33 residential units. In 2021, the council decided to review the options of the site again and marketed it with the opportunity for either outright sale or development from a partner. Thankfully, however, we, in the intermediary time, took some additional money from government through the Brownfield Land Release Fund. And so as a result, the decision was taken not to initially proceed. We've used that money to plan for the development of the existing buildings and in order to make a decision about what we're going to do going forward. Pre-demolition work is underway. This includes technical assessments, relocation of utilities, liaison with adjoining properties, clearing of internal debris, and securing the necessary permits and approvals. At the moment, we haven't a fixed start date for physical demolition work as we're awaiting the results and timing from third parties, like how long it will take to relocate the BT and open reach lines in the area. But the programme is being progressed with regular monitoring and review from the Cabinet Member for Property.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, I think so. Basically, the timing of this is crucial. The sooner the better. Obviously, we have to. The idea was to finish. I was of the understanding that once we finished August, we got them into September and we'd start the demolition work, because the funding was there from government, I believe, of £500,000 to pay for the demolition. My concerns are it's an ugly site, so the sooner the better. August was suggested last year. We put it forward to September, and I assumed September was going through. We're now heading to November. Then we hit Christmas, fireworks, God knows what else is coming onto Herne Bay. It's the timing, you know. Let's just hope this doesn't drag on and on and on. So, you know, an empty site would be a tidier site, and it would show us a start. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I did indulge you there for a little while.
Sorry, if that's a supplementary, I'm kind of understanding, trying to get to the bottom of where we are. Sorry,
Councillor Thomas, we agree. The sooner the better is essentially what we're seeking to do, and we don't believe that the Brownfield regeneration site is in any way at risk from the delays that we have. We're waiting on the information from third parties, and when we receive that, we'll push forward as fast as possible.
Thank you very much. And that concludes all the questions for this evening. So thank you. We now go on to item 8, notice of motion. And we have a motion on the cost of living, and it's proposed by Councillor Naomi Smith and is seconded by Councillor Buckman. And we will be debating it tonight. So over to you, Councillor Naomi Smith.
Okay, I will try and be brief. I'm hoping that you've all read the motion. and because I don't need to go through all the details of this motion and all the stats, but I want to pick out a couple of the highlights. Cost of living has affected a huge amount of people across the district. I mean, it's been estimated it's 128,000 people have had to, have been forced to cut their, things like heating or electricity or debt repayments or types of food that they buy. The increase in number of people using food banks has risen 250% in 3 years, and 1 in 4 children attending primary school are entitled to free school meals. 60% of the 3,700 households that are in absolute poverty, which is a funny way of defining it in the district, are actually people who are working. People are in poverty who are working. Canterbury has a higher level of people registering as homeless than the average elsewhere in Kent. That's why so many people get placed out of district as well. There's been lots of reports, and there has been motions to council previously under the last administration. In October 22, the council received a motion requesting an emergency task and finish group on the cost of living crisis. Cabinet at that time rejected the formation of the group in December 2022, but agreed to employ a cost of living worker and multi-agency partnership to help deliver an action plan around this post. Cabinet considered and rejected a motion to register Canterbury City Council as a living wage employer through the Living Wage Foundation. In June 2022, the council had adopted the Living Wages Foundation's minimum wage levels in February 22. However, the Cabinet agreed there was no value in accrediting the council with the Living Wage Foundation to encourage all businesses with which it works to also pay the higher minimum wage. So I would ask that this council pledges to ask the Cabinet to consider registering the council as a Living Wage Foundation employer as a means to actively encouraging businesses and our supply chain to pay higher wages when we lift everybody up. The production of a cost of living, secondly, a production of a cost of living strategy for the district with the aim of improving benefit take-up, improving residents' knowledge of local support options, and giving our voluntary partners who have provided personalised information, advice and guidance on our behalf better financial security. Thirdly, a formation of a cost of living forum for Canterbury districts to identify and deliver on strategic projects identified in partnership with the local charities and interested organisations who are working to reduce the impact of poverty on residents in this district. It's important that we...
Have you nearly finished?
Yes,
I'm sorry,
I have.
because you're running over.
OK, I would hope that everybody can support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Buckman, you can speak now or you can reserve your right to speak to the end.
I'll do it at the end, thanks.
Thank you very much. We can open now for debate. Have we got anybody that wishes to speak on this motion? So, Councillor Carr-Ellis.
Thank you. I was deeply saddened to read that the last administration refused to do a group to tackle the cost of living crisis. But having lived on benefits and in poverty under the Tory governments of the 80s and 90s, I'm not really surprised. According to the Resolution Foundation, an extra 800,000 people this year will end up in absolute poverty. While there is lots to commend in the Canterbury Society's report on poverty, I fear it doesn't go far enough in defining what poverty is. Poverty is more than simply a cost of living. Poverty is watching your mum ask for gift cards for Christmas so she can buy the Christmas lunch for the family. Poverty is going home crying from school because the teacher has shamed you because you can't afford a calculator, not even the cheap £4.99 one that Karen has. Poverty is knowing that tomorrow will be the same as yesterday and feeling your hopes and your ambitions and your desires just fade away. It was thanks to a change of government in 1997 that my family were able to pull themselves up out of those straits. And I am delighted to support this motion in the hope that a change of administration in Canterbury will do the same who are living as I lived under the Tories back then. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Howes?
Yeah, thank you. I just first want to answer why that was turned down. We, as an administration, thought it is better to actually get things started straight away, which we did, and we gave away a hell of a lot of money to help people in poverty. And as you can see, there's still a lot of money being given to assist, and we've got a very, very good track record in the district of supporting in various ways. That's why it didn't happen, because discussed, appointed somebody, work was done straight away. Setting up a working group and get recommendations can take up to 6 months. Yeah, so do it now or wait, choice is yours. Happy to support this. Great believer. I believe a lot of the work's already been started by various groups, organised by, I believe, I can't remember his name, somebody at Porchlight has got a lot of the local community groups together. And I know that Alan's been invited, Connie's been invited, and Pip, I'm sure somebody attends, and they've discussed things with the Canterbury Society. My only concern is about the accreditation. Accreditation's all well and good, but accreditation's, in my opinion, and this is solely my opinion, you have to pay for. Is that really good use of money when we, as a local authority, are struggling, or we as a local authority could use that money rather than paying a business, which literally the accreditation of living wages is, to support people most in need? It's your choice. Yeah, fully support it. It's just a concern. So happy to support this, but I just wanted to flag up the accreditation side. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howes. Councillor Baldock?
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of bits, actually. I'm quite passionate about the first bit of this motion, which is about the living wage. And it's exactly what we should be doing in times of hardship, because the living wage is actually not very much. And the previous administration, who criticised me earlier on for failing to actually correct this spin strike, had allowed to happen a large number of Caneco workers were paid less than the minimum living wage. Is there any wonder? That's the sort of bridge that we had to climb to settle this dispute. So that's a living proof of what happens when you do ignore low-paid workers. And I'm happy with that, because otherwise all it is for every taxpayer to subsidise an employer for paying less money to their employees so they can put a little bit more in their pocket. But that ain't fair. So that's that bit of it. The second bit, actually, I think we've got some really good news there, because it's great that it's on the motion, and I'll leave it there but we do know that under this administration, we're working flat out to bring together groups, because we haven't got a lot of money. But what we have got is a lot of influence and a lot of opportunities to bring these people together. Exactly the point you make, Naomi, in the motion, isn't it? And that's what we can support. So we can happily support this. We've got lots of work going on already. We need to get our act together and go further and faster, because it's desperate. Living wage, send that signal out. This council pays a living wage. You can, as an employer locally, if you work for us. It's a simple message. I think that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baldock. We've got Councillor Chris Cornell.
Just to answer Joe's specific comment, sometimes standing up for your priorities costs a lot, but to be honest, this doesn't. It costs us about £405 per year. Ironically, it was suggested that we didn't do accreditations like this by the last administration. 2 months later, they joined the Federation of Small Businesses, or became a kind of point of that. Suggesting that we pay the accredited living wage, telling people that we pay the accredited living wage, gets us better quality staff. £405 doesn't strike me as a lot of money for that. And but it encourages one local employer to pay their staff more. Essentially, it is worth its weight in gold. But the truth is, it doesn't cost very much, so I don't understand why we didn't do it.
Thank you. Councillor Connie Nolan.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We need to really think hard about making an impact, and this motion moves us forward. Councillor Howes is quite right. There are already organisations who are doing things, but this motion will firmly put Canterbury City Council as the person, as the institution that brings things together. Since I've become aware of the poverty in the district, which wasn't in the last 6 months, it's been for some time. Barton Ward is an interesting ward in that we have areas of affluence and we have areas of poverty. And I support two of the local institutions, one of which I go to as much as possible, which operates out of the Baptist Hub. I popped in there last Thursday. Thursday is when they give out the food parcels. And I would like to pay tribute to Lily's Social Kitchen, who are always there where they're needed to provide food for people who need it as well. I didn't take the usual social media photographs, you know, sort of there is a bit of a thing. If you don't take a photograph, you weren't there. I didn't take the photographs because it wasn't appropriate. But I can tell you that the admirable Julie Board, and I say her name, and I'm proud that she's a friend of mine, was using a megaphone, and I think she was up to number 80 for a food parcel. We have wonderful people doing things and they need to be coordinated together, but we cannot boil the ocean by saying that we are a council that's bringing people together. We need also, leader, to petition the government, because I have become aware that the Citizens Advice Bureau, who do excellent webinars on this, now talk about not just in poverty people who are working, but people who are in poverty because they have 4 children and they only get benefit for 2. Because they're stuck in a council house or social housing which has 4 bedrooms when they only occupy 3. And they are penalised through the benefit system. So, Leader, Lord Mayor, I think we should be looking at bigger things as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I just want to say thank you to Councillor Smith for bringing this motion. I fully support it. I certainly support the living wage initiative. I'm also pleased to see this wanting to pull together all those benefits that are out there. We get all these emails about things, funds and things that people can apply for, and you just think, are these getting to the right people? Are the right people who need the money? Are they aware of these things? Are they able to access them? So I think something that we can do to pull that together and to work with those agencies who are out there helping people, and we know there's some amazing things going on out there. So yeah, this is really good news to get that all coordinated across the district. So thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Do we? Councillor Dan Watkins.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. I think this is very prescient for the times. You know, there is a cost of living crisis. Started with the end of the pandemic, with inflation picking up then, and then obviously it ballooned as soon as Putin illegally invaded Ukraine. And I should actually say congratulations to Councillor Nolan for her brilliant nomination for the work she does with our local Ukrainian community. And you know, governments all around the world have responded to that. It's a global problem. You know, this government's put in tens of billions of pounds. There should always be more, but at the same time, there is only so much money to go around. I think it's worthwhile having a look at what can be done locally in the district. I would say, it's never worthwhile councillors reinventing the wheel, because that ultimately leads to wasted resources and wasted time and money. I'm sure you're aware, everyone who's supporting this, that Kent County Council also already has a well-established cost of living programme across the whole county. They have some serious expertise. They have some excellent referral mechanisms for voluntary sector organisations that can help people who go to that team at Kent County Council for help, and they can give out direct grants for heating, for eating, for utilities, etc. So what I would say is, as much as it's tempting to try and build a new Rome when we look at these things, please remember there is a lot of good work already done. We have limited resources in the council, and let's not try and recreate what's done elsewhere. Final point just on the living wages. Fine, let's encourage businesses to pay the best wage they can, but equally let's not lambast the ones who cannot afford to pay that top rate, because ultimately businesses create jobs, and there can be circumstances which are good for everyone, right, if we have more jobs, and there are circumstances in which businesses might struggle to pay that higher rate, and I feel it's the business's choice, as long as they're complying with the national rules, as to what level they should pay. So, yeah, encourage them by all means to do the best they can, but I don't think we should stretch into coercion in that regard. But, yeah, welcome the discussion tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Franklin?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think we have to remember what actually caused this cost of living. And although she was only Prime Minister for 40 days, it was Liz Truss' disastrous budget. That's what caused this cost of living. It increased our mortgage rates, it increased the cost of living, and that's the actual reason why we're in this current chaos. Now, what this motion does, I think, is actually quite good. It ensures that we are leading the way, both in our communities and the council at large, at trying to establish a living wage, an actual wage that people can live off of, not these sort of statistical manipulations, but an actual living wage that people can live off. And I thank very much for both Councillor Smith and Councillor Buckman for the work that they have done on this. I really, the Liberal Democrats have fully supported motions such as this. We were the first party to call for a windfall tax on the big oil and gas giants. And so I am grateful that this motion has come to this council, and I do urge my not only Liberal Democrat colleagues, but everyone in this council to vote for this motion, as we need this cost of living crisis to be something that's put to the past. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is nobody else? Then, Councillor Buckman, would you like to reply now?
Yeah, I've just got a few things really to say. I think poverty, well, I know poverty has always been in Canterbury, but it's just largely been ignored by people around here, and everyone who live in poverty, they have to get on with it. They've had no voice, they've had nowhere to go, and we've ignored it. I mean, during the 80s, my nan lived in a council house during the time of right to buy, and she didn't buy, and she didn't have hot water either. So if I went there, I'd have a bath filled with kettles. So, it's been going on a long time, but we've got the power now to do something about it, and do something quickly about it. I'll just touch on a couple of things. The living wage is, we've got to pay living wages to people. But I'd also add to that about when you go to pay smaller businesses, like if you give them a 30 days credit, that really affects small businesses. If we could do it for 14 days credit, small businesses do not have a large cash flow, and they're not cash rich. So that's one thing. As I think it's been touched on, families, you have 2 adults working within that, but they have no money for emergencies. Boiler goes, what are we going to do? Feed the kids, feed each other, have heating? What's the option? And the stress that causes is unbelievable. And then, national things, got the increases in high rents at end of tenancy agreements. This is why we need the Renters Reform Bill, whatever anyone thinks about that. That is important, estate agents putting up rents by 30% just to get more money for their landlord. And then I think, what could we do? We're moving to new premises. I think we could set up a VoIP system for the phone lines, where residents will phone in, leave their number, their name, address, a brief description, which is then digitised, put into an email, and then it could be picked up by an officer and then sent round to the relevant people, whether that be a councillor or someone else in a different department. We have a lot of people, we have no spaces in the households for the children to do their homework or even be connected to the internet. We need to provide more hubs in this district all over the place, for kids to come in, do their homework, so they don't get behind at school, so they're not even victimised even more. And the uptake on benefits is in the motion, but I think we have to be careful how we talk to people about that, because pride is one thing a lot of us have left when you're on benefits, and being told, you need it is basically, it can be taught as failure, and no one wants that. So I think it will need careful handling. As I say, pride is really important. There's also transport poverty, the cuts to buses, meaning people can't get into town, people can't see each other, and people can't get to medical facilities. There's just one thing, as everyone here, I think sometimes we can be too quick to judge other people. We might see someone looks a bit run down, their garden's a bit of a mess, they're driving around in an old car, but there's reasons behind that, and I just think we should be a bit more aware, a bit more compassionate.
You have to wind up in a minute.
And be more compassionate and humane to people, because there are circumstances we might not know about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Smith, Naomi, did you want to have the finishing words now?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. But to be honest, I hadn't prepared any finishing words. I think my colleagues across the council have all had plenty to say, and I'll leave it there and hope that everybody can support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now take a recorded vote, so I'll ask Pippa to do the recording. Is it working? Well, it's got 2 abstentions. I can't read it. I think we've got 37 and no, I can't read that from here. Sorry. You have to tell me. 31 and 2 abstentions. Yeah. Thank you very much. Can now I go on to the second motion, which is the motion on care leavers. And I'd like to ask Councillor Moses to propose it, and it will be seconded by Councillor Mackenzie. So, Councillor Moses?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So this motion is really close to my heart. As a young person who grew up in Southeast London, I was surrounded by other young people, particularly those who were in care. I had a conversation with my friend last week about this motion, and I sought her permission to speak briefly about her experience as a young person in care and the challenges of navigating the care system. She informed me that a group of people who have previously been in care called on Tower Hamlets Council to help other care leavers thrive and not just survive during an emotional cabinet meeting. At the meeting, the council agreed to protect those who have been in care from stigma and discrimination once they leave by making being in care a protected characteristics in all council decisions. Care experienced individuals often encounter significant barriers in getting employment, housing, and social support, leading to mental health issues and a higher chance of being involved in crime and poverty and social exclusion. So briefly, let me talk about my friend. Her parents migrated from Vietnam, and she moved to the UK. Her dad decided to gamble the family's finances to pay off his gambling debts. He became very violent, so was her mum,
and this resulted in her having a mental breakdown and the children removed from the home, and she was just 10 years old. The environment she grew up was very toxic and very and traumatic. Her and her siblings moved from various foster care homes, and her mother never recovered from that experience. So at the age of 15, she ran away from home. And the reason why she ran away from home was because she couldn't cope in an environment where the lights in her bedrooms were taken out and they were left in darkness, or being refused food, or not allowed to go into each other's rooms just as a form of punishment. So at 16, she was transferred to a self-accommodation in Bernardo for 16 to 18 years old. And this was quite a distance from the rest of her family. This added an additional pressure to relationships that were already fragmented. She had no support, and she felt the experience was isolating and frightening. Both her brothers struggled to cope, and the first died of anorexia at 21, while the second committed suicide at the age of 28. I knew both brothers. The statistics show that 1/3 of care leavers become homeless in the first 2 years immediately after they leave care, and 25% of homeless people have been in care at some point in their lives. And young women leaving care are a group particularly vulnerable to homelessness and being at risk of violence, abuse, or exploitation. According to Safer London, young people experience the highest rates of domestic abuse than any group. Saved Lives raised that young people experience a complex transition from childhood to adulthood, which impacts on their behavior and decision making. For young people in care, this is much complicated. The intersections...
I have to ask you to wind
sorry.
up, Councillor Moses.
All right, sorry. I'll go on. So I feel that Kent County Council's decision to stop housing care leavers over the age of 19 should be reconsidered. KCC has a duty of care and a moral obligation to safeguard these young people, and should not transfer the responsibility to Canterbury City Council.
Thank you, Councillor Moses. It's going to be seconded by Councillor Mackenzie. Do you want to speak now, or would you rather speak at the end?
Reserve my right. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Can I now open it up for debate? Thank you. Councillor Flanagan?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I wholeheartedly support this motion tonight and thank Councillors Moses and Mackenzie for bringing it to the Council. When you look at this, there are three things that we have to consider, and I would hope that every single councillor on here tonight would support. Firstly, the financial implications of this if that KCC decision goes ahead. As it says here in the agenda tonight, potentially up to a £2.4 million impact on this council's finances, because KCC are walking away from the issue and pushing it down to district councils to pick up. That's number one. Number two, a planning issue. If we find this goes through with more demand on local housing in the local area, we know what the restrictions and the demand supply issues are on our housing in the local area. That will cause more pressure and more concern with that as well. But thirdly, and this is the key reason which I think could even trump the other two, for reasons of compassion, empathy, and outright humanity. We are talking here about young people, young carers, young asylum seekers who could be presented with this fate where they're in all kinds of difficulty trying to find housing and the funding to support that. The one phrase that I want to bring out here is the mental health implications that any decision that leads to that could cause those young people. So tonight, I don't think any of us have anything to lose at all simply by asking the leader to write to KCC and to asking our cabinet to consider the implications. By supporting that, you have nothing to lose. By opposing it, you have everything to lose. Exactly. You lose any approach or any approach to financial discipline, for planning for the council, and you lose any say on empathy, compassion, and humanity for these people who we're trying to defend through this motion. I really call on all us councillors to support it. If we get a good cross-party support, that is a very strong message that goes via the leader back to KCC. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Flanagan. Councillor Howes?
Thank you. I want to say, been here, seen it, done it. 2015, old people's accommodation. KCC said, oh, district councils can do that. We can all look at the history of how that's damaged us, how that has mutilated our HRA. Oh, let's do the same with the homeless. 2019, what's that done? Oh, that's affected the charity sector. So let's find another group. And we're talking really, really small sums of money here they need to find. This evening, I made that money up based on my very, very simple knowledge as somebody involved in education. I can find that money if KCC did one thing, and it's literally one thing properly, but they don't. They have failed it. I know I'm speaking against my party, but I'm going to tell you, this Saturday is my daughter's birthday. I'm not telling you that because I want you to buy her a present, although it'd be nice. Yeah. As we've all agreed, there's a cost of living. Yeah. And I don't work, I'm retired on health grounds, so I'll put round a hat. Yeah, yeah. She's very expensive. She lives in London. Her rent's just got up to £1,500. Yeah. And the estate agent have taken £3,000 up front for that. But anyway, it's her birthday. I'm going to see my whole family. That's important. And the reason I feel so strongly I'm mentioning this is I would not be able to look my kids in the eye and say, I have made a decision based on fact. I would not be able to look my kids in the eye and say, I'm making a decision based on what I think is right. It's simple. It's not a statutory duty. KCC don't have to do it. But there's lots of things KCC don't have to do, but they've done it. A bit more notice is always advisable if they're going to stop doing things so people can actually get a plan in action. But at the end of the day, statutory or not, there is a moral duty. This is a group of people who, the reports came out yesterday, which Councillor Moses obviously had talked about the ones in London, but the national report said that a third of these people are going to face homelessness at some stage early on after leaving care. We're not even talking about the impact that's going to have on our budget. That will impact on our budget, but that will ultimately come from central government. It seems to me that it's a domino effect. KCC, to stop themselves toppling financially, are willing to let all the other district councils fall first. Yeah. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to vote. Choice is yours.
Thank you, Councillor Howes. Councillor Pat Edwards?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I need to declare an interest, which I realised during this conversation, and I want to do this by way of supporting this motion. I'm a trustee on the board of Kent Refugee Action Network, and obviously we operate out of Canterbury. Children who are unaccompanied minors very often end up in care. They need an enormous amount of support when they leave care, and everything that everybody has said about the moral duty, but also the absolute need for support so that they don't fall through every single support network. Accommodation is a key to making sure that they don't. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Turnbull?
Thank you very much. Well, I totally agree with everything everybody said. It's been really passionate and I think people have spoken extremely well. I fully support this motion, and that these most vulnerable young people should be bearing the brunt of the funding issues in this district is indefensible, really. It's got to be done differently. So I certainly support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Watkins?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I should declare an interest. My wife is a young person social worker, and I am a Kent County Councillor, Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care. So not this brief, but just the slightly older cohort of society. I think it's good we're debating this. I'm going to give some counterpoints. I'm somewhat torn on it myself as representing both councils, but I hope people will at least listen. Some of you are virtually booing at me already, but let's have a debate, right? That's why we're here. Let's at least listen. Look, the question of the moral duty is a very good one. There is a moral duty to protect the most vulnerable people in society, and care leavers are some of the most vulnerable people in society. Absolutely, I know that from council work. I do that. I know from my wife's work. But actually, there isn't a moral duty to say Council A should do it rather than Council B. That's not moral. That's just a decision about who's got the best resources, who's got the best expertise. So, yes, there's a moral duty. And a council, whichever way this debate goes, whichever way the decision of Roger Goff and actually Sue Chandler, who is the Children's Persons Cabinet member, whichever way they vote on this matter or decide, you know, that will be, you know, that will be a decision they're making based on resources. But it's whichever way it goes, there will still be provision for young people, because fundamentally in Canterbury, either we will provide it, or Kent County Council will carry on providing it. There will still be a provision. There has to be. It's a statutory duty. The statutory duty, though, as noted by Councillor Howes, is actually not with Kent County Council. And if you look across the country, there are very few county councils who are now providing what Kent County Council does at the moment. So we are reverting to the norm. And I know that's really hard for our district. I know that's really hard for our council. But we are reverting to the norm. I hope you understand the financial pressure that Kent County Council is under. Sitting on both councils, it's not easy here either. The difference at Kent is we have a huge number of people services where demographic demand is just hugely boosting number of people, older people who need care, younger people with identified SEND needs. We're providing more than we've ever provided across the whole spectrum. Young people, people in transition, older people, for care, and our balloons are spiralling, our costs are spiralling at such a rate that we do need to reduce some costs. And remember that Canterbury City Council residents are also Kent County Council residents. And if Kent County Council was to go bust, as 7 councils have gone bust around the country in recent times, then that will be doing no good to our residents here in this district either. So I just ask you to try and take a kind of balanced view in that way. And maybe a final point, we talk about which council is best. I've always assumed, as a council on both, that actually we are the council that's best at housing. Right? We already deliver housing, and I wonder if we can improve the provision, which is not perfect, provision we're talking about. I wonder if we can actually improve it because we have that expertise in housing. So I just wanted to give that counterpoint this evening, but very happy to have the debate.
Thank you very much. Can I now ask Councillor Ricketts?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Watkins, I think, and well done everybody for listening to that as well. I think it is important to hear those points, and well done for raising them. Can't have been easy in what is a hostile chamber. Two exhibits of bravery from the seats over there from Councillor Howes and Councillor Watkins, slightly different, but appreciated. And to that point, I think I can only echo what's been said previously about this. And to that point, and sorry about my stance, by the way, I have to get down here so I can be heard. There is some maths around this, and there's some fairly obvious maths around this, and it's horrible maths. And this is the situation we find ourselves in as local councillors, at whatever level we represent. It does seem to me that the maths in this case are fairly obvious, and it's useful to look at this for a moment dispassionately, because quite often when council decisions are taken, we talk about the knock-on effect, and very rarely are we presented with the obvious financial impact of a move like this, where £700,000 saved in Maidstone can be £2.5 million in Canterbury, and that will be echoed across the rest of the county. Who is it that pays for that at the end of the day? It is the residents of all of those districts. So we are costing our council taxpayers more money by making this decision in Maidstone and delivering it down to Canterbury. It's quite simple that there's the obvious case there. There's also the maths that aren't included in this, which is all of those problems that are suffered by care leavers, some of the most vulnerable people in our society. It's not just the cost of housing them, it's the cost that will then be visited back on to Kent County Council through your brief, Councillor Watkins, through adult social care, through all sorts of other, through health implications, through all sorts of other implications as well, policing, all of these things. This is such an appallingly short-sighted decision that I think we have to write to Kent County Council and get them to reconsider it, and they have to see that there must be other areas in the budget where they can prune and to leave this thing alone. So I commend everybody to vote for this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chris Cornell?
Thank you, Dan. I concur with Alex's comments, but it's useful to have this conversation in an open and honest manner. And I think essentially that you're right here to a certain extent. It's not necessarily a moral issue. A council will deal with it. However, I do disagree with you about whether necessarily the local authority is the most appropriate in this circumstance. Surely the most appropriate in this circumstance is the person who's already got the accommodation, which at the moment is Kent County Council. They've got a provider who essentially already provides serviced accommodation. So if you're 19, 20, and all, no one's shown you how to fix a light bulb and suddenly it goes out, there's someone you can ring. Okay, there is a safety net. It's a very basic safety net, but there is a safety net for those 19, 20, 21-year-olds, which is very different from essentially being put in your own tenancy, where essentially if something goes wrong with the boiler, if essentially your radiator's not working, there's not someone at the end of the phone line, you've just got to deal with it yourself. So the question here is about what is the adequacy and the appropriateness of care. And essentially Kent County Council already have an arrangement. If they were to force it down upon local authorities, we've not had enough time to plan. We might be the best able to provide support, but we don't have that at the moment. And were we to have to recruit additional officers to provide support for care livers, we know we do it at a considerable cost. Housing in this local area is expensive. We'd have to do it in the private sector. And we all know in the short term how far we relocate people in temporary accommodation when they find ourselves in this district. I spoke to one local mum in my ward this week who essentially the first recommendation we gave her was Hastings with 3 young kids. So if TA accommodation is problematic, we're going to remove the initial support network which people have. When we put them in private accommodation, it's going to cost us far more than the arrangement which Kent County Council have at the moment. Hell, essentially, if we all had a whip round in this room, we could put, the money saved by Kent County Council would be more, would be met. In this circumstance, I think what we're saying is that Kent County Council has a system which we don't have, which if you push it down to the local authority, it will cost us more money to establish, and which most importantly will not deliver that standard of care in the short term, which we know these most vulnerable young people need.
Thank you very much. Councillor Charlotte Cornell.
Thank you. I'm going to slightly build on the words of this wise and learned gentleman to my left. I'm very aware that this recording of tonight's meeting is being streamed. And I'm also aware that the leader of Kent County Council was down at Canterbury City Council offices earlier this week. So I know that he'll be listening in. Good evening, Roger. I'm also aware that the leader of Kent County Council, and I've met him personally on a few occasions, is a considered and kind gentleman. And I hope that he and the other district leaders and district elected representatives from other Kent councils that are listening tonight I hope they take note. One, I hope that other district councillors across Kent and other district council leaders follow Canterbury's lead that I hope we will vote through tonight and write their own letters. I hope they will bring their own motions and make a cacophony of sound about this morally reprehensible decision. 2, I'm going to quote Roger's own appendices back at him. When I was wading through the appendices for the cabinet meeting that was recently had, I wanted to make sure, and I make this very clear, that it may not stand legal weight, Roger. You say that the key test for your discretionary services is whether the need identified can only be met by the council, or whether other partners are equally or better able to meet need. We are not equally or better able to meet the need of those vulnerable younger people. And so your discretionary services must be continued to be provided by yourself at Kent County Council, rather than passed down to a lower tier authority who do not have the buildings, the infrastructure, the existing accommodation, can only put young people further away from their support networks, their friends, their family, and their education. I repeat your words back to you. We are not equally or better able to meet need, and I urge you not just to suspend your decision, but to completely revoke it.
Thank you very much. We've got Councillor Nolan, then Councillor Franklin and Councillor Brady.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I honestly didn't know that Councillor Charlotte Cornell was going to involve Roger Gough, because I am as well. I feel sorry. I really do feel sorry for Mr. Gough, because a quick trawl of the newspapers, we can see that on the 16th of November 22, he was saying that he needed more money from the government to, quote, put us on a long-term sustainable footing. We need urgent, meaningful dialogue with them. Well, that obviously didn't happen, did it? And I do feel sorry for him about that. So what's actually happening is Kent County Council, because they couldn't have this meaningful dialogue with the government, I forget which party, sorry, is it? Oh yes, it's the same party, isn't it? It's the Tories talking to the Tories. But because they couldn't have this meaningful dialogue, they're simply passing the pain down to the district councils. And we must stop that. We must stand up and say no, because we need to push it back up. We need to push it back up to government. And can I just remind everybody in this room that the government thought they came up with a lovely scheme to put some refugees on a floating barge, which is called the Bibby Stockholm. It's been empty for over a month, which has cost the taxpayer, not the government, it's the taxpayers' money, £560,000, just doing nothing. It costs £24,500 a day just to rent that particular thing. Somebody's making money out of the taxpayers' money, and it's certainly not the residents of Canterbury. So let's not let Roger Gough shift the pain down to us, but let's stick it back to the man.
Thank you. Councillor Franklin?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think what this motion has really shown is that Kent County Council really needs Mike Soul as treasurer for Kent County Council, because it's quite clear that the Conservatives cannot run their own finances, as shown by the audit committee by Kent County Council, that they have a massive black hole. Now, who is in government? It's the Conservatives. Who is in charge of Kent County Council? It's the Conservatives. So how comes two tiers of government cannot give the services and the support that local residents need in this city? Yeah, it's disgraceful, quite frankly. So it should not go down to us, because ultimately we are so close to residents that if we went bankrupt, lots of vital services will be put to the wayside. This is a Kent County Council problem, something that they need to sort out and negotiate with the government, their own party, on trying to bring in that money, bring in that support, because at the end of the day, it's the Conservative government that has caused this problem, and it's them that should fix it.
Thank you. Councillor Brady?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm just going to start by saying I hope everybody in this chamber represents Canterbury City Council. It doesn't matter if you've got two hats. When you walk through that door, you represent Canterbury residents and you represent Canterbury City Council. You forget every day. Thank you. So this paper came to a committee in KCC. I'm going to pull a couple of things from this paper. The impact of this decision could result in care leavers presenting to the District Council as homeless at the age of 19 and has specifically been discussed with the District Council since March 2023. We're looking at this decision. There are surprised faces when this letter came to the Council, so I would look to question the accuracy of this information within a KCC document, so the Kent Labour Group will be taking this to scrutiny because of the unclear information. Also, it states once a child in need reaches 18, they'll no longer be eligible to be accommodated by the council, so we need to present to their local district council, return home, or be supported in into accessing services from adult social care. So see, you've got two hats on. The Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care is sat in here. I'm wondering if there's costings of how much support will be needed, and the extra £700,000 savings in one portfolio, how much is that going to cost Kent County Council? Are you concerned about that? But you shouldn't be concerned, because you should be supporting these people whenever they need it. I'm going to quote from the Children in Social Work Act 2017, which outlines the corporate parenting principles. KCC is a corporate parent within the county, and how they should be applied. It states that to act in the best interest and promote the physical and mental health and well-being of those children and young people, to encourage those children and young people to express their views, wishes and feelings, to take into account the views, wishes and feelings of those children and young people, for those children and young people to be safe, and for stability in their home lives, relationships and education or work. I'll just leave it there. I support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Brady. Councillor Peter Old.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I refer to the notes that we were given, saying that the council will have to house these individuals within unserviced private sector tenancies. It then goes on to explain that housing benefit would be topped up by £300 a month based on a monthly rent of £650 for shared housing in this city. As Councillor Chris Cornell has pointed out, these people will not be housed within the city. It is simply unaffordable, if you're under 25, to find accommodation within the city. I speak as former Vice Chair of Catching Lives, and I give notice to everybody and all the councillors here that this will result in a great increase in the number of street homelessness within the city, because these people won't be able to be accommodated locally, and they will find themselves removed from what roots they have, from what friendship groups they have, and be living in accommodation quite remote from the city. So I strongly support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I don't want to be accused of asking another question, but I am a bit confused as to the tripling in the figures that Canterbury City Council from KCC that Councillor Ricketts mentioned. I mean, I may not have been understanding the question, but basically it comes across that if KCC run it, it's 77 million or 1,000 or whatever. Sorry, I don't know the numbers. But if it comes to Canterbury, it's 3 times the cost. I'm just puzzled on that comment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I don't know if we have an answer on that. It's in the papers. It's in the papers, Councillor Thomas. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Mike Sole.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And Councillor Thomas, I think you'll find it's much, much worse than that. It's KCC saving 700,000 across Kent, but potentially just 2.4 million cost to us, add in the many millions more that the other districts will pay. This is unbelievable, this additional cost. We've heard tonight all of the reasons why this is an absolutely terrible situation. You know, and I know that as a district council that we would do our absolute best for these young people if we have to look after them, but it won't be as good as what they're getting at the moment, and some will fall through the net. But if we do have to do it, we will. This additional cost will absolutely drive a coach and horses through our budget. Even if 2.4 million is too high, even if it was just £500,000. It's money we haven't got. And in order to support these young people, someone else would have to bear the cost. Some other service that we do will have to go. Our residents will have to pay for this. And I dread this happening. You know, what we might have to do to our budget, we would just tear it up. You know, forget so many of the things that we do or want to do. KCC may be looking to go down to
their bare minimum statutory services, we would be doing that and more if this has to happen. So I certainly agree with this motion. We write to KCC. Although the motion doesn't mention it specifically, it's already been said as well, working with other district councils, we need to come together as Kent, all the district, borough, city councils, shouting out loud, this cannot happen.
Thank you. Councillor Liz Harvey.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I need to bring to notice a possible conflict of interest. I know it's late in the day and I apologise. I've been a carer for Kent County Council, a foster carer, for 14 years. And in the last couple of years, we've got legal guardianship on our children. So although they are in our care, I am still paid a wage every month through Kent County Council. So I wanted to make that clear. The other thing I just wanted to make a quick point on is that I know you spoke really passionately about what happened to your friends. And obviously being in the system, I've seen a lot of this. I've seen care leavers get into properties. I've seen them take the money. I've seen them smash the places up, and I've seen them disappear. I've seen others that have gone in and it's been highly successful. I don't know if my children qualify for this going into care. I haven't thought that far ahead because actually my children are my children. They come to me at 8 months and 2. So they're still mine. They're 14 and 16. So are they ever going to leave home? Probably not. And thank God, I don't care. I love them. But I do think something needs to be done for them more than just giving them somewhere to live. And I know this is going over what this is about, but my children know how to do a bit of ironing, how to do a wash, how to manage money, but a lot of them don't. So that really is important. And the other thing, but it's another total debate, but I will bring it up because it is vitally important. You said about mental health. My son, I knew from the age of 2, was autistic, 100% guaranteed, tiptoes, he almost took off, he flapped so much. Everyone ignored me, and he is now registered diagnosed as autism. But that took 8 years with a child in care. My other daughter who's been bullied is now bulimic and self-harming. I've been told she can't get any help. There is no one to help her. I have to pay, which I'm doing, privately to see a counsellor. So there are failings. And, you know, if anybody is involved in this services and want to talk to me more openly, I will tell you the truth behind a lot what's going on. And it's not just, you can't just say, oh, it's Kent County Council and that does a job. If they ain't got the funding, they ain't got the funding for the services. And I don't know where it comes from because I'm not that clever enough. I don't know. But I do hope we can continue to house our children. That's all I say.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Paul Prentice.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It was only a few brief remarks, really. I'm just reflecting on the case of a young man I've been trying to help in the last few weeks, who has specific needs, and I'm hoping to find a solution for him with his housing. Now, he is not in the category of a care leaver, but he is in the age group of the people we're talking about tonight. And he's going to various private landlords at the moment, desperately trying to find a safe and respectable home for his needs. And he's being asked for 6 months rent up front in the very competitive Canterbury housing rental market. Now, he's fortunate that he has a guarantor who can help him to support him if needed. How many care leavers between the ages of 19 and 21, 23, 25 are going to be supported to the tune of several, 70, 80,000 pounds in the instance of this particular person who does have that guarantor and who does have that support if he needs it. That's just a figure to put out there, bearing in mind the impact that this could have on Canterbury City Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Carr-Ellis?
I will step down, Lord Mayor. The last two speakers have spoken exactly as I would have said. Thank you.
I think Councillor Dawkins was indicating.
Thank you. I just wanted to say something as well, and we've all spoken so much tonight, and it's just been really amazing how much people care, and the passion that's coming out of everyone, and the stories and all that. And I think what we accepting this motion tonight, and for our leader to write a letter, and Councillor Nonan's totally right. We need to shove it right back up to the top. We shouldn't be leaving it to the taxpayer to deal with a problem that has, that is a problem caused by the government that's making this happen. So, put it back stick it to the man, as you said. And I just wanted to sort of make a comment about KCC. I mean, you've made the comment as well. The 700,000 saving that they're going to ask for is nothing compared to the raft of issues that are going to be coming down the way of the adult care services, which are already at capacity, as you know. So this is just shunting at its best. And just a comment, I don't know many young people who are fully fledged adults by the age they're 19. I certainly was. And in contrast, those people who do live with their parents, I don't know, they don't really leave home till they're much older anyway. I don't know about your experience, but I lived with my parents, and lucky for me. And, quite often I'd leave home, go on a training course, and then I'd come back, and I did that quite a lot of my 20s, and I don't know how many of you would admit to that, but so why is it different for care leavers? Why are they supposed to be suddenly more able to look after themselves and not have that safety net? That's what we're saying today, essentially, if we don't write this letter. And young adults still need that support, both financially and emotionally, and that knowing you've got a base and that safe place, and you go out into the world, you make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. We need to make mistakes to become the adults that we all here that we are now. So but to have that space that you can go to, you made that mistake, you can go and lick your wounds and then try again, and hopefully you won't need to come back next time. So I'll be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Robert Jones?
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. Well, what can I say? Listening to everyone tonight, the debate, it's been incredible. For myself personally, when I don't want to bore everyone with my story, but basically when I was 15, I left home, went to London, didn't see my family for 20 years, and I was very fortunate when I migrated down to Kent that I was looked after by a Whitstable family, and I'm here today, basically. But my point, really, what I want to make is to be a bit different. For me, to hear that when you're so young, when I was such a young boy coming from Yorkshire, I don't sound it like now, I've lost my accent, which was much to my mother's disgrace, but bless her heart's no longer with us. I was very lucky, like I say, to fall into people who I never knew, people I worked with, realised my situation, and I could have been so easily one of those people. But I wasn't, and I migrated down to Whitstable. It was a different place then. It was in very early 1980, 81, and a lovely family in Whitstable literally took me in as their own, literally. And I won't mention who they are, but that family is known to quite a few people in here. Anyway, regarding the situation we're in, I understand Dan's points, Kent County Council. I understand everything to do with that. But when you're very young, you are very vulnerable. I remember that even today, just sitting here, I can feel it come back to me, how I feel about it. And when you do a fiscal test on it, the amount of money, what you would not save by doing this is incredibly more. You would spend so much more money if you're just going to take it on a fiscal basis. But morally, to think you would unseat young people in the most vulnerable and put them into a position where I didn't end up, because I didn't end up in that, and I found my journey the way I did. But they could quite easily end up, as the gentleman spoke over here, being homeless. And I personally, irrespective of any of that, would not want to be responsible for any part of that. And therefore, that's why I will obviously be supporting this motion tonight. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Jones, and for sharing that with us. And thank you for everybody who shared their stories. I can't see anybody else indicating. So would you now like to speak, Councillor Mackenzie?
Sure, Lord Mayor. I would like to start by expressing my deep disappointment at the KCC and the ruling Conservative Party within it, who with these proposed cuts are going to be throwing vulnerable young people to the wolves in their hour of greatest need. A council is supposed to protect people and lift people up, to provide public services that give people the stability they need to get on in life. The KCC is utterly failing young people leaving the care system. When these vulnerable young people need support to find the stability they need to have a great start in life, the KCC are ripping that support away. They are risking putting vulnerable care leavers into poverty, homelessness, exploitation, crime, and worse. As a young person myself, the second youngest on the council, only by 6 days, I'll get younger. I am really disappointed that the KCC is willing to disregard vulnerable young people like this and blatantly fail a generation of young people. So I wanted to address some of the reasons that the KCC have given for this. Firstly, the KCC, as we all know, is in quite a bit of debt. Their finances are shot and they need to balance the books. You can trust the party of fiscal irresponsibility to crash the KCC's budget with short-term thinking and reckless economics, and that is exactly what they've done. Although, to be fair to them, the Tories in government are to blame as well for lacking the funding for local councils, but then they crash the economy too, so what do you expect? Back to the point though, they need to balance the budget after they crashed it. They are looking for £58 million in savings to do so, and they think that by cutting accommodation for care leavers aged 19 to 21, they're going to save £700,000 per year. And they may well make those savings, but who's going to pick up the bill? The KCC cannot wish deficit away. Their ostrich act of sticking their heads in the sand won't solve the problem. Someone will have to pay for housing these care leavers. We in the Canterbury City Council have a responsibility to house homeless young people under the age of 21. We will have to house these additional care leavers, of which there are 285, one of the highest proportions in Kent, in unserviced private sector tenancies, and top up their housing benefit by £300 per month to house them all. This would cost us in excess of £2.4 million per year. The KCC saves £700,000 while putting a financial burden of £2.4 million on us. They are passing the buck for paying to accommodate vulnerable young care leavers to us and fleeing from the responsibility. I will add that this will put additional pressure on the Cabinet Member for Finance, who already has a mammoth task in front of him, in balancing the books here to provide crucial public services to Canterbury District residents while servicing the immense debt that the previous Conservative administration left us in. The KCC should take responsibility, stop passing the buck, sort their financial mess out, and support the young people as they are supposed to. A second reason that they are making these cuts...
You need to wind up.
I will wrap up, Lord Mayor, but there is one more very important point that I would like to make. One of the reasons the KCC gave for making these cuts is because paying for this accommodation holds back services for other young people in their communities. Do not dare blame some of the most vulnerable young people in our county for holding back services for other young people. That was a disgusting remark for KCC to make, and I hope that we will pass for our leader to send a letter to them this evening. Thank you.
Can I ask Councillor Moses if she would like to now conclude?
Thank you. I really haven't got anything else to add, but I just want us to send a very strong message to every young person in care and those currently navigating the care system that your voice matters and your life matters. Thank you.
I just say thank you very much for an excellent debate, and we will now go to the vote. We've got 31 for, 1 abstention and 1 against. So carried. Thank you. We now go on to 8C, which is the motion on the right to grow. And can I ask Councillor Brady, who's going to propose it, and it's going to be seconded by Councillor Mellish. And I don't know whether you want to speak now or...
I'll speak now, yes.
Okay, so Councillor Brady first. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I'm expecting this to be less controversial and antagonistic, so I'll put on my polite voice. I'd like to propose the Right to Grow motion, which looks to identify suitable open spaces and support residents to utilise these to grow vegetables, fruits and plants. This should be a simple motion to agree on, Lord Mayor, as I hope we'll be pushing on an open door. This motion began because there are examples of residents who had, with the help of children from the area, as well as neighbours, taken stinging nettle-infested strips of land and transformed it to produce food and vegetables. Unfortunately, they were asked to stop and restore the area to how it previously was. I'm sure this isn't an isolated example. The point here is obvious. We need more community projects where residents come together. We need projects that transform unkept areas. And we need more projects which could have the potential to tackle food poverty. It is important to have locally produced food to provide affordable and healthy options for local people. We see the need for this because of the cost of living crisis, and this is also demonstrated by the popularity of allotment space. Today, Canterbury City Council Open Space Team is involved in ongoing work to identify council-owned open space with the view to support community cultivation. This motion simply enhances this and demonstrates to our residents that we will look to support this wherever possible. Also, we have just agreed that there is a biodiversity emergency which needs to be addressed. Community gardening and biodiversity initiatives could do this. We know how important it is to support pollinators, and it should be widely understood that there is a benefit in recognising the need to have land for this purpose. The benefits for public spaces, which are cared for by local people and can be used to produce food, flowers, or both, are self-evident in terms of the positive impact on the well-being of local communities, the individuals that tend and use them, and the broader environment and biodiversity of Canterbury District and beyond. I won't list what we are asking the Cabinet to consider. That's in front of you. I'll just end by saying, as councillors, we like to be seen as community champions. I hope our actions in this hall this evening demonstrates this, and you are all able to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mellish.
Thank you. I'll speak from here. Thank you, Lord Mayor. It's strange being up this high above you all. It's my usual position, I know. I'm going to be quite parochial at first and speak about health and mental well-being in Herne Bay area. The areas that fall into the worst deprived quintile across Canterbury are found in West Bay, Heron and Greenhill. 33% of children living in the most deprived parts of Heronwald are income-deprived households. Similarly, approximately 22% of the older people living in the most deprived parts of Heronwald are gaining deprived households. Heronwald, with 94 mental health contacts per 1,000 of population, compares badly with Canterbury at 43 and Kent with 41. Life expectancy in Heronwald is 78 years, is 4 years shorter than across the Canterbury district at 82 years. So you have 4 years less of life. Bear these figures in mind when discussing the benefits of allotment gardening. Gardening is good for you, and allotment gardening offers additional benefits that help to ameliorate loneliness and enable citizens to contribute to society, especially beyond retirement. Allotments bring together a community of like-minded people, many of whom are eager to share their knowledge and spare produce. The social contract offered by gardening in an allotment environment helps to combat the lack of social capital embodied by loneliness. There's a growing awareness of the role that gardening plays in both preventing and alleviating mental ill health. Gardening can also help to maintain good walking and balance in older gardeners and help with cognitive decline. Allotment gardeners will tell you that a spell on the plot, nurturing plants and contemplating nature makes them feel calmer and more hopeful. Studies by the King's Health Fund have confirmed this benefit. One of the key drivers of common mental health difficulties, particularly in older people, is loneliness. And so getting people involved in activity that not only brings many benefits, but also offers companionship and peer support can be truly transformative. If managed properly, an allotment can produce enough food to supplement a family's weekly shop, with fresh fruit and vegetables over the year. The need for such resources or nutriment is plain in the growth and the dependency of people on food banks. It is also part of an answer to the increase in obesity. The King's Fund's Garden and Health Report says that evidence on the impact of gardens and gardening on health is closely related to the wide array of evidence on green spaces and health more generally. Increasing people's exposure to and use of green spaces has been linked to long-term reductions in overall reported health problems, including heart disease, cancer, and musculoskeletal conditions. It has also been linked to reduced levels of obesity and high physical activity and higher self-rated mental health. Living in areas with green spaces also seems to weaken the effects of income inequalities on health. Gardens can provide other important environmental functions, such as reducing flood risk and moderating climate and pollution, which have knock-on benefits for health. I want to see a substantive growth in the numbers of allotments, particularly in Herne Bay. We have just short of 200 plots for a population of 40,000 and growing. Perhaps we can start with the old hockey pitch behind Beacon Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Joe House.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Sheriff for scaring me, telling me I'm going to die 4 years younger than everybody else in this room. Unless I move, so where do I have to move to?
Now, aren't you?
So, but no, it's interesting that you do talk about Herne Bay and you talk about those allotment numbers. Myself and Councillor Jones had a really interesting meeting at a housing development on the old golf course site. And we discovered that the developers have put in 15 allotments, which is something all developers should be doing. Yeah, makes probably a bit more, that's 15 for 600 houses. Problem is they're empty. And I fully support this. Alice is right, I can't see anybody objecting to this for any reason apart from to be Mary, quite contrary. Yeah, but the thing is, these allotments, nobody knows what to do with them. Who's going to run them? Nobody. Nobody's helping anybody set anything up. So I'd love us as a council not to run them, but to try and encourage people to know how to look after them, how to run them. Because myself and Councillor Jones have said we'd try and do something, but hey, here's a gardener, I don't garden at all. So I think that's it. But I also think another thing for this excellent list of things is one of the other groups we have to work with is housing associations. We need to encourage housing associations to put in allotments. If we think about Whitstable Heights as an example, I don't know if Whitstable Heights has got allotments in, but I would love to see housing associations putting lots and lots of shared space, not just for grow your own, but also for community. We all know the importance of community, and this is the best way of doing it. So thank you. You've got my support, everybody.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mel Dawkins.
Thank you, and you would be surprised to know that I welcome this motion this evening. Thank you very much for putting it forward. And yeah, we do know that community gardens offer a multiple of positive benefits. As I said, I'm really pleased to have this motion here today. But I do want to stand here and congratulate the amazing work that the environment team are already doing on this as well as the housing team, as stated in the text. They've been doing a lot of SWOT analysis, finding maps and stuff, looking at maps to find suitable spaces for community gardens in the area, and that local map will be available when it's all done, and hopefully we're going to see some amazing spaces. In our own ward that I share with Councillor Carr Ellis, we've had some great work going on, and you know, so together we really welcome this motion, don't we? And you know, there's work of the Green Team, the Hells Place Action Group, and the Haven Wed, which is a new group coming together. And we met with them this week, actually, to talk about all the great work that they want to do, creating a community garden that will benefit the community with fresh vegetables and all sorts of things. So I'm really looking forward to that. The council should support this, and with the right advice and understanding, not put blockers in the way for something that is going to be a real crucial initiative for all of us, so that we can meet those net zero targets that we talked about, and also that biodiversity emergency that we've just voted on. And that will be in the form of a memorandum of understanding or a license, so that everybody knows what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do, and everybody can get the best out of it. So with the cost of living crisis going on, the desire to want to grow your own is growing. That was my little joke. But many people don't have a garden or enough space to do this, as well as the time to commit to the amount of time it takes to care and manage a garden. So community gardens really, really do represent a really good way of solving those issues. And as I said, already 82% of people say nature makes them happy. So hopefully this initiative will harness that remaining 18%. So just want to make sure that we include the pollinators, and you brought that up, so thank you for that. And that perhaps within this motion we look at the use of pesticides in our gardening practices, and perhaps we look at sort of initiatives for nature-friendly gardening. So yeah, really pleased this is here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dawkins. Councillor Michael Dixie.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Like everyone else here, I suspect, I fully support this motion. This is being done very successfully in other parts of the country, very successfully. And we should follow those people who have pioneered this approach. One of the roadblocks, however, with Canterbury is that we do not have a full picture of all our land holdings. And we have many hundreds of properties and open spaces in our ownership. We are currently developing a database, a very comprehensive property database, which should help us identify suitable sites. And I think that quite a lot of sites will come out of this, which will be suitable for this. So again, please support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Connie Nolan.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. As I outed myself earlier as an allotment holder, I'd just like to give a point of information that there is a waiting list at all allotments that I know of. I am on the committee, of course I would be, wouldn't I, of my allotment. But what I want to say is people are queuing up, well, waiting 6 months, sometimes a year, to get a plot on the allotment. What we're doing on my particular allotment society is when someone gives up a full plot, we're offering 2 half plots to people. So there is a real need. Also, as a ward councillor in Barton Ward, I've often been approached by local residents who want to take over a particular piece of land and want to sort of grow things on it. And I welcome the idea that they will be able to do that. And finally, I'd like to say I support all guerrilla gardeners, and I support this motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Harry Mackenzie.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So Not long after the election 5 months ago, I remember there was a tour of the district in a coach, and we went over to Herne Bay. And correct me if I'm wrong about the name, we went to Oxenden Square, I believe it was called. Yeah. And I remember seeing all the flowers and the bees and the other insects that were flying around. It was an absolutely beautiful community garden. Lots of vibrant colours, lots of room for pollinators. And I don't know if this is applicable to community gardens, but all I know is that I would like to see more of that sort of thing dotted all across our district. Wherever we can have it, we should have it. Good for pollinators that sustain our food chains. Good for mental health, being around nature. Good for biodiversity, when we've just passed a biodiversity emergency declaration. If passing the right to grow and the right to have community gardens can bring more areas such as that one to our district, then I think this is a very good thing indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Paul Prentice?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We've heard tonight the urgency of the cost of living crisis, and I think that the previous two motions have actually set a theme. This administration is committed to tackling poverty in all of its forms. Everybody, no matter where they live, should have the right to grow. And this motion is one way of tackling food poverty and indeed health poverty. It does more than it says on the tin, which is why I like it. So regardless of where you happen to live in our district, there is no logical reason why that opportunity to grow should not be restricted. And speaking for my household, we are obsessed with fruit and vegetables. And in our modest garden in Canterbury, we have nurtured at various times over the last few years raspberries, strawberries, onions, carrots, 2 different varieties of tomatoes, French beans, runner beans, and we got a lot of joy and satisfaction over that narrow strip of land. Well, my partner did most of the work. But particularly during lockdown when the weather was nice, and even I got out there with the thing. What do you call it? Yeah. So my fellow councillors enthuse about their allotments, quite rightly, and I love hearing about what goes on in the allotments. And quite rightly, and I say, why restrict the right to grow just to council-owned allotments? Let's provide that opportunity to as many places and as many people as possible. And I think if there's anywhere that should be flying the flag for the right to grow, it is Canterbury, right in the heart of the Garden of England. I think that's the second time I've made that reference in a council speech. Bit of a cliche, but it works. Before I finish, I suppose I would add that our enforcement teams have many pressing issues, and so pausing any enforcement on guerrilla gardening would be a sensible and I think a popular move with residents who I think rightly expect us to prioritise other areas. And I think we should carefully consider, just as a sort of a point I think which should be useful, I think we should carefully consider how we grant licences to suitable community groups, make it clear what the parameters are for the right to grow in a particular plot of land. But I don't believe that should preclude us supporting this motion whatsoever. So let's embrace our inner Tom and Barbara Good. For those of you who remember the 70s sitcom reference, I do fully support Councillor Brady and Councillor Mellish's motion. I would urge all members to support it for the sake of the well-being of everyone in our district. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Prentice. Councillor Dan Smith?
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Yes, a couple of things. Firstly, thank you very much for Councillor Dix's contribution about all the land holdings, because I think that's important to know that potentially we do have a lot of land out there that's going to become available for this kind of potential project. And that would be very welcome to have an update on that as it goes forward. For the reference Councillor Howes made to the developments and the allotments that were in developments, I think it would be something that, although perhaps not possible now with the strategic sites, going forwards, any new strategic sites, to actually incorporate this kind of concept within the strategic sites would be of enormous benefit and would perhaps enable persons such as Councillor Howes to improve his lifespan. I would also, to dig again into the cliche of the county, Kent is indeed the garden in front of England, and we should indeed make it so, and I would fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Carr Ellis?
Yeah, as somebody who can kill a plant merely by smiling at it, I look forward to enjoying the fruits of other people's labours, especially after having some of Councillor Nolan's plum jam this summer. Very nice. I look forward to other jams from you all. I would like to ask, I would like to call on the council and officers to work with the community on this. As Councillor Dawkins said, we've been having discussions with our residents in St Stephen's about this, and the wealth of knowledge they have is mind-blowing. There is a whole encyclopedia, a Reader's Digest of gardening knowledge out there that we should be plumbing, if I can go back to the jam reference, that we should be plumbing and encouraging people to share with. This is something that can truly ignite all of the community, and we should be turning to these people for their help, for definite. On another point, I would really, really like it if Kenenco could maybe just stop cutting the grass quite so short as well, because it looks like, you know, it's been done within an inch of its life. And if we're going to have all of these beautiful right to grow places and community gardens, let's have all the spaces just looking like they've been allowed to live. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dan Watkins?
You all look at me in trepidation. But of course I support my good friend Alistair's motion. And I'm not going to say too much other than I am also a keen veg grower, and look, everyone has spoken eloquently. There are many benefits. I think we might have missed one out. I think it's a great way of staying fit, right? It's very active, and like public health is something that should, you know, all challenge us. How do we improve it? And this is just another tool in the box that we can use there. So yeah, very excited to support it. Look, when you're in opposition, clearly you're frozen out from quite a lot of stuff. But let me say that not only will I support this, but if I can actually be useful and roll my sleeves up, or something more cerebral, if you prefer, then please count me in for that too.
Thank you. Councillor Dane Buckman.
Thank you. Just coming at a slightly different point, and from my own experience, a number of years back, I was helping out at a community garden, and actually there was a lot of vulnerable adults during a lot of the sessions, and I ended up mentoring one of them through gardening. And a few years down the line, he actually runs his own gardening business now as well, which is something, it may have happened anyway, but it's good. It's something good that you can get out of gardening. You get the community. You get people talking who might live in flats and you don't speak to each other, or you are even at the other side of a fence and you never speak to each other. So it does build communities. And there is actually a formal health thing now. It's called horticultural therapy, if I can say that properly. And that is, yeah, it's recognised, like music therapy. It's recognised to improve people's mental health. So it's definitely something you should support, and you know it's going to have its knockers at some point. You know, I mean, you would have to be careful with what you grow. You'd have to have some sort of liability. You'd have to be pet safe and things like that. But that's easily sorted out. But the main point is, yeah, growing stuff is great, because if you make a mistake one year, you try again the next year. There's always stuff to learn, the camaraderie and everything that goes with it. And so yeah, I would support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Naomi Smith?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I fully support this motion, but I want to ask two things, please. Could we, as ward councillors, have a sight of the map of areas beforehand, please? Just because we might know of stuff that council officers don't know about. And the other thing, perhaps look towards creating a database of community champions, the sort of people that will get these groups going and will provide the advice. I'm sure Dan Watkins is going to be one of them. I would really have a plea for us to work with the Environment Agency, who insist on mowing the seawall in May when the swifts and swallows are coming in and decimate the entire seawall, which is full of insects because of, it gets this high with, grasses and flowers, and they come along always in May, and everybody who cares about wildlife says, please don't do it, but they insist on it.
Thank you, Councillor Smith, and I'm sure we've taken notes of your suggestions. Councillor Keith Baldwell.
Lord Mayor, I fully support this motion, and I fully support what my fellow councillors have said. I think it creates a win-win-win, etc. situation. It increases biodiversity. It improves mental health and physical health, builds communities, and addresses the cost of living crisis amongst the many advantages it brings. And not only that, but it also saves the council money because of all the sites which are taken out of their hands and taken into the control of the local community, reducing maintenance costs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Liz Harvey.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. A couple of things. I wanted to say, Tom, we can help with your life by go to the community gardens in Herne Bay, in the Memorial Park. I mean, if you're looking for ideas, go down there and speak to them guys. They really do well. They work with the elderly, with vulnerable people. They work with children from the schools. We often include them in our events. That's a really good point to look at and speak to them. The other thing is, as I know Lady touched on it over there, I'm sure it will be done, but I'm interested to know how will residents or communities get to know about this land and how they can get the right to do it? How's all that information going to go out? Will there be like a mass leafleting or something going on? I'm just interested in that because I don't want people to miss out that really want to do it. I'm lucky I have a garden and I do grow my own stuff, but some people don't. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I think Councillor Baldock, you can answer that.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. It's been absolutely amazing. I mean, I'm the sort of person that barely knows the difference between a Brussels sprout and a cabbage. I'm useless at any sort of gardening and hate it equally as much, to be fair. But I also understand and the passion of what happens to gardening, because my wife is absolutely passionate gardener, so I just lean on that responsibility about it. But all of the things you raise, like how do you know? I mean, it's clearly we're now going to take this back to Cabinet, and we now have, I think, a really good steer from Cabinet. We'll be looking at all of you for other advice on how we put this together, because clearly this needs to be something that is really sustainable, not for 1 year, it's going to be for 20 years of sustainability, isn't it, and what we do. So we need to get all of your advice again. We've got loads of notes all over the place here, and yes, you will know. There will be maps, there'll be documents. I don't know how we're going to put it together at this moment in time, because it seems to me it's got so much support. We need to be able to share it very easily and wisely, So yeah, we work on it together as a council, and that's really good. Make sure of it. So that's what I say, really. It's fantastic.
Thank you. I think Councillor Franklin, you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Well, as the youngest councillor, I remember because growing up, my parents had a garden, and growing up during the age of video games and social media, you don't want to do gardening. You want to play video games and do social media with your mates. You don't want to go out and help your mum in the garden. And when she would command me to go out, I would begrudgingly go, yes, mum, and help out. And I never saw the whole point of it. But now, being at this age of 23, living... I apologise to my colleagues, but at the age of 23, and And living in a flat, you realise how important that space is, how growing improves your mental well-being. And that time you have with not only your community, but with your family to grow something. You know, what I would give now to be able to go back into that house and to go, you know what, Mum, I would have liked to have grown something with you. I would have liked to have grown those tomatoes. I would have liked to have grown those flowers. And I think giving that ability to grow that community, because that's what people say, isn't it? We don't have a community. You know, growing up, it's a nation without a community. There is no community. But having this space where people can talk, where people can grow, where people can accomplish things and feel pride in that accomplishment, I think that's what this motion does. And I thank Councillor Brady and Councillor Mellish for the great work that they have done here. And I will most certainly be voting for this motion.
Is there anybody else? No? Then I can ask Councillor Brady just to...
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It's quite nice proposing motions, isn't it? And pushing on an open door. It's incredibly timely, brings communities together, and there's many, many benefits. So thank you for the cross-party support. It really is heartening, and I'm looking forward to seeing green votes all the way through on the board. Thank you.
Thank you all very, very much for that excellent debate. We now will go to the vote. Yeah. Unanimous. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. We'll now move on to item agenda number 9. And that's just to note that we have discussed the biodiversity emergency. That's just a note. Thank you. And then we've got changes to memberships of committees and subcommittees for the remainder of the council year. Can I ask Councillor Baldock to propose and Councillor Dixie to second?
Oh. Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to propose some changes to the membership of committees and subcommittees for the remainder of this council year. Yeah, good. To note that the membership of the Older Persons Working Group as Councillor Butcher, Councillor Hazelton, Councillor Howes, Councillor Naomi Smith, Jeanette Stockley and Councillor Turnbull. Also to note that Councillor Bothwell as a member of the Local Plan Steering Group. This was missed off at the last meeting, so that's to tidy that documentation up, if you bear with me on that one. And to replace Councillor Carl Ellis on the Audit Committee with Councillor Mellish. Those are the changes that I've noted. If you're happy with that, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Baldock. Is that seconded, Councillor Dixie? Thank you. We can do this by general assent, so is everybody agreed? Yep, thank you very much. And now we need to look at the renewal of the council's participation in the East Kent Independent Remuneration Panel. And can I invite Councillor Soul to propose and then Councillor Chris Cornell to second? Thank you, Councillor Soul.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to propose this. May I say a few words now as well? I think it's so important we have an independent panel that reviews councillors' remuneration, and by working with other districts it makes it stronger. When this first came on the agenda, I arranged to meet up with Mr Ken London, and we had a very interesting chat where he told me all about the workings of the panel, and I was very impressed with it. And I can tell you that not only is he willing to be appointed again, but he actually wants to be appointed, and he relishes the work he does, and I think it's great work. So I hope that we can pass this very simple item on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sol. Does anybody wish to speak on it? Oh,
I
sorry.
second it, Lord Mayor.
Yes, sorry. I can't see you round there. Has anybody wanted to speak on this or so? Then we will go to a recorded vote. Thank you. Thank you very much. That is unanimous. Thank you. I'm now going to item 12, the council minutes, and can I ask Councillor Baldock to propose?
Okay, this is back to the last council meeting, which is 20th July 23, and I propose that we approve those minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Dixie. This can be agreed by general assent. Thank you very much. And item 13, head of paid service. That's yourself.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think Matthew Archer sent round a helpful email earlier on today explaining the process for this. But the Lord Mayor will invite the relevant chair to propose the receipt and adoption of the minutes and to ask for a seconder for the proposal. Councillors are permitted to debate the minutes if wished, and a vote by general assent will be taken for each set of minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we've got Councillor Baldock.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So the first appointment is the Appointments Committee, the 7th of July, and pages 31 to 34, and I seek that. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. Can we, general assent, is that? Yes, thank you very much. And the Audit Committee, Councillor Brady.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I move for receipt and adoption of the minutes of the Audit Committee meeting dated the 5th of July 2023. Do I have a seconder, please?
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. General assent, is that? Thank you. And then we go to the Cabinet, which is Councillor Baldock.
Lord Mayor, yep. To submit the minutes for approval for the Cabinet on the 1st of August 2023, pages 40 to 44, and also the Cabinet on the 2nd of October 2023, 45, pages 45 to 54. Thank you, Lord.
Councillor Dixie has seconded.
You want to speak or you're seconding? You're seconding? Thank you very much, Councillor Dixie. And then we go to licensing and Councillor Bland. Oh, sorry.
Thank you,
We've
Lord
got
Mayor.
to, hang on a minute, I've forgotten. We've got to approve that and go to general assent. I'm jumping ahead of myself. Can we have a show of hands? Thank you all very much. Now it's yourself, Councillor Bland.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. I move for receipt and adoption of the minutes of the Licensing Committee and the Licensing Subcommittee on the 10th of July, the 5th of July, the 12th of July, the 19th of July, the 2nd of August, the 16th of August, and the 23rd of August, all in the year 2023.
Wow.
Do I have a seconder, please?
I second them, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. General assent? Thank you. And then we go to Councillor Edwards for the Planning Committee.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I move for receipt and adoption the minutes of the Planning Committees dated 27th of June 2023, 25th of July 2023, 19th of September 2023. That's pages 86 to 100. And do I have a seconder, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We go to general assent. Thank you. Overview and scrutiny, Councillor Prentice.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I move for receipt and adoption the minutes of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee meetings dated the 26th of July 2023 and the 14th of September 2023. Do I have a seconder, please?
Seconded, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Flanagan. General assent. Thank you all very much. And then we go to the Scrutiny Subcommittee, Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I move for receipt and adoption of the minutes of the Scrutiny Subcommittee dated Thursday the 17th of August 2023 and the 13th of September 2023. Can I have a seconder, please?
Seconded, Lord Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then we go to the Whitstable Harbour Board.
Assent.
Oh,
Assent.
assent. Yes, general assent. I'll have to write that down. Thank you very much. And Whitstable Harbour Board, Councillor Chris Cornell.
I move for receipt and adoption of the minutes of the Whitstable Harbour Board meeting on the 23rd of June. Can I have a seconder, please?
Thank you very much, Councillor Dixie. So that concludes that part of general assent.
Should do them all at the end, really.
Yeah.
But just do the one vote.
Yeah, that might be handier. And then we go on to item 14, to receive any notices of any urgent decisions made by the head of paid service.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. There was one decision made by the Director of Strategy and Improvement on the 7th September. Details, you can click on the link on the agenda to see the details of that decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We just note the decision. And no other urgent business has been notified to myself, so I conclude the meeting over. And thank you very, very much for such a lovely meeting. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope our colleagues did.